Good morning. It is July 5th, and I wanted to have been making certain videos by now, but today kind of blew up and can't really do much. I wanted to do this video after a couple of others, but here we are. I'm going to be doing a more proper update video on just the channel and the stuff the channel's been covering. This video is quotas, dues, rules, and how we got here. Because this is a lot of stuff that I've had to explain in a lot of small situations, either some or all of this. And so I'm gonna just go through how we got here with the dues situation. And the story starts a lot farther back than a lot of people realize. And yeah, I want to do a more proper update on just the past week and a half, or by the video gets made, probably 2 weeks. But there are two main threads. Well, there's this thing. I can do this. I can't do this. I have to do this. There are two main threads that are in here that to an uninformed person, they might seem unrelated, but I have to remember it's right here. But if you are such a person, I don't think any less of you. Just stand by. It will probably become clear by the end. And if not, well, shoot me an email or ask a question in the comments and stuff. You know, I'll definitely be honest, that's for sure. In the beginning, the Idaho Republican Party had quotas, a roughly voluntary system in which counties sent money to the state party, largely based on operations purposes, you know, keeping the lights on and such, not necessarily for electioneering activities. The situation, as the years rolled on, became Ada County in that system never paid on time or in full, really. A lot of things were just written off or forgiven, you know, a lot of years, and that's just how the situation was with Ada County for years and years. Years go by, and the situation doesn't really change because of both the state party and Ada County Lincoln Day Association are pretty much fundraising from the same pool of donors, effectively. And so there's less to be had there, and so there's a little bit of an excuse, not really, but anyway, so it's not quite the situation that we have now. It's just Ada doesn't pay on time and full, and it's probably not going to catch up, and this is abundantly clear to a lot of people. Now, the year 2014 rolls around, in which Ada County is selecting delegates illegally. That is a whole other story on its own. I've made reference to it a few times. There's a lot of people I hang around with that could absolutely tell you the story. That's a whole nother half hour at least video to tell that whole story fully. And I wasn't even there. My brother was, but I wasn't there. However, it kind of became, a lot of the things that happened in that story were part of the impetus for getting me involved in local politics. But that whole situation happens, and the rest of the state party is pissed at Ada County, and to a point where the 2014 convention grounds to screeching halt because the rules aren't being followed. Major reforms are made in both delegate selection and other preparations for a convention. So this is between 2014 and 2016 is roughly that one. Now, what's also going on here is that either around there or sometime not long before, deals between the state party and the Ada County GOP, in which certain kinds of activity that Ada pays for are counted towards the dues. Now, this largely happens because Ada County at the time is not likely to catch up. And just so I'm not glossing over anything, the whole situation at the time is understood that Ada County isn't paying, is not going to pay, and is unlikely to be able to. There's 3 points in one there. Now, Becky Young becomes chairman, I think, somewhere around March 2016, probably a little earlier, if memory serves. I was only barely paying attention, and this is just a thing that my brother was doing at the time. I don't become involved until later. But Becky Young becomes chairman. Fundraising is now worse for Ada County. There's a lot of bad things I could say about her, but the thing that is really relevant here is that fundraising becomes worse under her leadership. And she stops all quota payments to the state party, citing no money. And there really was no money. Yeah. There wasn't any, and there were reasons. A lot of the things that the county party would normally pay for start sliding a bit. There's things that we're not doing and whatnot, and a lot of this becomes pretty blatantly clear later on. But this is roughly around the time where stuff like that starts happening. Now, somewhere around here, though, in early 2016, I do become more politically involved myself. I get elected to be precinct committeeman for the first time in May of 2016. So there's that thread continuing. Now, under a lot of scrutiny, Ada County selects delegates to that year's convention, but almost doesn't because of a motion to strike the results of Ada County's nominating committee, and it's almost successful. And that in and of itself is another story entirely, but some commotion is being made along the same line again, and Ada eventually does actually select delegates that day, though. Somewhere along the line, Becky Young negotiates even more electioneering types of things as credit for the quota because there's just simply no way for Ada to really pay it. And it's rumored that she even, for a small time, was able to get all donations from people in Ada County counted towards the quota. And if you know anything about the argument right now, is that a very similar scheme was proposed to be baked into the rules about such things. That's one of the bad proposals that came out of Ada. I ripped it to shreds. And this, I know that, and this was even said at least a couple of times to Victor Wall in Chalice, that he can't seriously expect that proposal to go through if Ada is very well able to pay dues. Just saying. Now, Becky, now some time passes and a lot of things are slipping, as well as PC involvement is also very much slipping in the party. And then in the last handful of days in the year 2017, Becky Young resigns and she hasn't been seen in a few months. Ryan Davidson, in a special meeting, is chosen to replace her for the remaining few months of that term in, I think it was on or about January 30th, 2018, roughly near the end of January. because there's a month gap between resignation and stuff. A lot of the establishment, or just simply centrist types in the local GOP, are pissed that Ryan won it. Won the chairmanship in that special election. They are really mad. Now, whether they have any right to be angry about it or what they do about it, that's a whole nother discussion entirely. This is not supposed to be a video necessarily about the time that he was chairman. But somewhere in the next few months, it's discovered that certain people are encouraging all donors to donate to the state party directly, so that, and I am quoting here, I wrote this down at the time, Ryan Davidson does not get the credit for that. That's literally the reason why this effort was being done. In the same conversation that happened, it's discovered that all previous agreements about getting credit for Ada-based donations have been done away with. By the same people, in fact. But let's continue on, because, that was a little bit of a weird time, the interregnum between Ryan first winning chair and then the following May where he wins it outright in the regular election. So after that, a lot of smaller actions are also chipping away at Chairman Davidson, culminating in a Pearl Harbor type of meeting in November 2019, when Ed Humphreys and Victor Miller are finally emboldened enough to bring up the bad shape of the finances, which are still pretty bad. Ryan's trying to do stuff about it, but it's still pretty bad, of the finances, on top of the state quota not being paid. And this is something that they started saying right out of the gate when they finally announced themselves that they were a group and they were challenging the people in charge at the time, is the quota was not being paid. They mentioned it from the first time that Ed Humphreys started yelling in that meeting out at... it was some sort of shooting range out in Meridian, I think it was. They had a side classroom, and we were meeting in there for a time. Long story. But, Ed Humphreys was basically shouting in that meeting, and they were, from that moment on, always mentioning money to the state not being paid. And so, in the intervening time between that November meeting and in 2019 and the 2020 Ada County reorg, under the banner of Make Ada Great Again, Victor Miller, Ed Humphreys et al. Make all kinds of lies and outrageous statements about money, quota being paid, and general mishandling of money and related resources. These people accused Ryan Davidson of, and anyone connected to him, so that involved me too, of all kinds of impropriety. Much of this campaign, much of that Make Ada Great Again campaign mentions a lot about fundraising and Ada County's apparent non-payment of the quota. And there were small bits of money that were being paid at the time, but it's just, it wasn't going to catch Ada up, and there wasn't really a whole lot to speak of. In and around the final bits of that before the 2020 Ada County reorg meeting, some people start demanding an audit, and this is mostly related to the Make Ada Great Again people. And some of those underlings do this due to these lies and inflammatory statements that are being made. An audit is done by Vicki McIntyre, but only $200 of misplaced money is found, and that was quickly rectified because it was $200. The 2020 reorg finally happens, and Victor Miller is installed as chairman. And some of his underlings are given pretty much given positions as a reward for damaging the previous administration as much as possible. I mean, it was even admitted this is why Ed Humphreys got to be Region 4 chairman. Near the end of the resolutions meeting at the 2020 convention, as a Save Ada County resolution was being discussed, it was presented by Ryan Davidson. Victor Miller gets up and makes several inflammatory statements about the previous administration, as well as statements about Ada needing to instead pay its fair share and earn the party's trust. Some people remember what he actually said. My camera gave out, but I have everything up until just about when he got up to speed, though. Another audit under the command of Victor Miller is demanded, and they find no substantive difference between the original audit done by Vicki McIntyre, and they blather on a little bit more about a lack of donations at the time, which I guess was just a final FU to Ryan Davidson, what they were doing. They didn't really find much else. The Make Ada Great Again faction goes scorched earth on everyone remaining, to the point of making questionable decisions about handling precinct committeeman vacancies, and just to make sure that people are opposed to Victor Miller are edged out. I mean, I was even one of those people. After a while, it becomes apparent that some people got sucked into Make Ada Great Again, thinking that was a more honest effort to clean up the party. Now, some people who are more dead set on doing an honest job, instead of doing Victor Miller's will, are becoming disillusioned and start being targeted by Victor's more inner circle. Somewhere along the way, right at around there, Victor Miller presses on everyone he can to consider stop paying the quota. He does an about-face on all of this. He's to consider stop paying the quota to the state party, and more questionable decisions regarding those things are being made, including the removal of power from the Ada County-based LD chair, legislative district chairs on Ada County's executive board. That fight is still going on today, in fact. But that's roughly where crap starts happening. There's no true conservative position. I'm reading from some rough notes here, so give me just a second here, because I took a few days to organize all my thoughts on all of this. But I wrote down here, no true conservative opposition organizes against Victor Miller in the 2022 Ada County reorg meeting, resulting in Victor Miller remaining as the Ada County GOP chair. There is opposition to him, but it fails to organize, especially around any particular person. Now, the 2022 Twin Falls Convention happens soon after, and it comes and goes, and leaving Tom Luna and picking up Dorothy Moon as state chair. More and more questionable decisions by Victor Miller are starting to generate complaints about the Ada County GOP leadership. The following winter, it's discovered that Victor Miller had 0 voluntary conversations with Dorothy Moon, and somewhere along there, Victor Miller instructs the proper people to stop payments to the party entirely. The winter 2023 meeting of the State Central Committee in the Idaho GOP happens, and the quota system is replaced with the dues system. And this is the linchpin that to a lot of the current argument about such things is that the quota, roughly voluntary system, is now being replaced with a dues system where it's written in stone what you're going to be paying and when. Some of the parts of this are kind of questionable in their enforcement, and the problem kind of becomes more pronounced when somebody starts a fight about it in the general session the following day. Somewhere around here, the regular emails from Kim Wickstrom get more caustic and accusatory, while also claiming to want party unity. If you're in the Ada County GOP Central Committee, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, conservatives on the Ada County Central Committee force the matter and get the budget amended over several meetings to at least pay $1,000 a month, well short of the assessed dues per the new rules. During this time, Victor Miller's inner circle is getting smaller and smaller because he starts pissing off more and more people, while he makes statements about not owing the party anything anyways because of how much we do for the state party. Yeah, nobody really bought that, but whatever. And he does this on top of making questionable statements about Sophie's choice and difficult financial decisions. So, Victor Miller, somewhere around after that point, refuses to do any kind of financial review or audit, because now people are really curious about, well, wait a minute, why aren't we? What's going on? And so some people, I don't know if they have any right to be suspicious, but they start, well, we have all this money, why aren't you paying? And okay, well, that makes me think that you don't actually have the money. Let's go and look. And so people wanted to look into the finances of the county party. And it's right around here where a slate of really bad rules proposals on the subject of dues and related matters are first introduced by Ada County, with the eventual goal of having the state central committee pass them at the state level. The rules are poorly written and poorly divided, and because and this is what I say a lot in my previous videos about them, but many note that the whole slate looks like one big rule that was just split up so some parts of it would survive bad votes in committee. It somebody ended up saying something really close to what I've been saying in the Rules Committee. But I'll leave that for another discussion if it ever comes up again. About a month later, after all that crap happens, after the Ada County Central Committee sent these proposals back, and I quote, because they were not ready and poorly done, they become only 4 proposed rules instead of 6, and the 2, not this, but this, but the 2 become 2 proposed resolutions instead. So, in parallel, during all of this time, since about the State Central Committee meeting on January 5th or so, some of us are banding together with other Republicans across the state to make and pass a change to the delegate selection rules to prevent counties from selecting delegates at all if they're able to pay dues, but won't. A lot of work, collaboration, and time goes into that, and I'm just like one part of that puzzle, but others were quite clearly involved. This wasn't just my project, but believe me, I did contribute, and I ended up being the one speaking for it. A stalemate between and in addition to this, a stalemate between competing bylaw amendments, some of which are about dues, proxies, and the executive board, results in none of the changes being passed with Ada County's own bylaws. So a lot of related matters, we aren't moving forward on it because 2/3 is required to amend the bylaws. Neither side has 2/3, but one side has a clear majority, and it's not Victor Miller's faction. Just say that. It becomes apparent that a couple of Ada County PCs road trip all the way up to Kootenai County to formally start the process of introducing the delegate selection rule changes, which is starting to be referred to at about this time. That's where people start referring to it as dues accountability. Kim Wickstrom gets more nasty in another email soon after this. Like, I'm not even entirely sure that we had arrived back in Boise by the time she sent out that email. All manner of insinuations, insults, threats, and statements are made about the dues accountability change. Not just simply about the couple of Ada County PCs, but also about some of the things going on up in Kootenai and across the state. But moving on, everyone who can later arrives at Living Waters Ranch in Challis, Idaho, or rather just outside of it, for the summer 2023 meeting. Dues accountability passes the first day. The 4 rule changes and 2 resolutions go down in flames, not only for content reasons, but because of the poor behavior Victor Miller and Kim Wickstrom have before the Rules and Resolutions Committee up there in Challis. The next day, it's, that morning, it came time for consideration and debate for dues accountability. Only very weak arguments are made against it, and even some of the small opposition come up with amendments about the factors of the waiver language in dues accountability, making the opposition smaller, because some of them, I'm trying to not misrepresent someone else's viewpoint here, but I believe it was something like, well, I still don't like this, but let's at least make this better so that at least make this better and more palatable for the lawyers, or something like that. It had to do with the change had to do with making clear guidelines about how a waiver is considered and granted, which I don't think that was entirely necessary, but whatever. I'm not opposed to the language, and so dues accountability got amended a little bit in roughly quick order, actually, and soon after, Victor Miller got up to debate and is behaving like a child for not getting his way. You could see it in his body language and how he was speaking, much like the previous night, and including making statements about how much Ada allegedly does for the state party, which he is, of course, overstating it, as well as making some invective about being $1 short, making a county lose 150 delegates. Now, he absolutely did read the rule, but if you read the rule, you would have known that wouldn't be the case, at least if a county is being honest. So he is definitely not being honest for one reason or another there. So it comes time for the vote of dues accountability. Between 75% and 80% of the State Censor Committee votes are in favor for dues accountability. It passes pretty convincingly. And everybody goes home after that, and Kim Wickstrom writes another infamous email. And that's roughly where we are right now, is we're kind of waiting for the other side to do something here, because it was explained to them that trying anything in the legal arena was going to be a bad idea, an expensive idea, and it would be rather hypocritical if they had resources to do that with. Now, and a lot of other issues have been covering up the news space regarding the Idaho GOP right now, so there isn't really a whole lot coming out about what anybody's doing about dues accountability. I have rather severe doubts that Victor Miller would just simply take the punishment. He's going to lash out in some way, and so we're just trying to find out, because the man is a child, he's gonna lash out. You know, he's a flaming narcissist. Flaming narcissists either do one of two things in that kind of situation, where they either lash out after taking punishment like that, or if they're more the well-off sociopathic types, they might just simply move on to something else. Now, I don't know if he's a true sociopath or not, so I don't know if he's going to move on to something else, just like he moved on from Connecticut, but I don't know what's going to happen next. But that's kind of where we are and how we got there. Now, I am going to stop this video and then try to upload it. So I will see you all later.